We can all celebrate. Maybe. They've arrested Maxwell. I will say, I find it suspicious that we've seen no mugshots. We've seen no perp walk, no court appearance, no nothing. Which is why we're watching the prosecution. Now we know that Barr and Trump have gotten rid of Bierman. Apparently she's going to be held in the same jail that Epstein killed himself in. And this is going to be one of those moments where you look at the system, and if it doesn't work this time, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That it doesn't matter who wins, just looks like the same song and dance. That is how important this case is.
As alleged, starting in 1994 until at least 1997, Maxwell had a personal and professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
She gets off the podium, comes down the stairs to point at this picture of Epstein and Maxwell. And you'll notice that she's turning her head because she's holding it here so that all the cameras can get this picture. She has a little bit of a crack of a smile. It's like she's not quite sure how she wants to present this. Is a smile too much? Should I just have a straight face? What should I do? This is her moment. This is the career maker of her lifetime. Now, if this was something she personally wanted to brush under the rug, she would certainly not be doing this maneuver. She would try and get through this as quickly as possible, as low-key as possible, with the least amount of inflammatory rhetoric as possible. But instead, she's brought on the rhetoric. She's holding for these pictures. She's smiling for these pictures. This is her career maker. So at this point, at least for this woman, Maxwell is something that she is not trying to sweep under the rug. It's as public as she can get it, and that is her goal.
Maxwell was among Epstein's closest associates and helped him exploit girls who were as young as 14 years old. Maxwell played a critical role in helping Epstein to identify, befriend, and groom minor victims for abuse. In some cases, Maxwell participated in the abuse herself. As alleged, Maxwell and Epstein had a method. Typically, they would befriend these young girls by asking them questions about their lives, pretending to be taking an interest in them. They would take them to the movies and treat them to shopping trips. Maxwell would encourage these young girls to accept offers from Epstein to pay for their travel and their education, making these young victims feel indebted to Jeffrey Epstein. After developing a rapport with the victims, Maxwell then tried to normalize sexual abuse with a minor victim through a process known as grooming. For example, Maxwell would discuss sexual topics with the victim and undress in front of the victim, or be present for sex acts involving the minor victims and Epstein. Maxwell's presence as an adult woman helped put the victims at ease. As Maxwell and Epstein intended, this grooming process left the minor victims susceptible to sexual abuse. That abuse included sexualized massages during which the minor victim was fully or partially nude. These sexualized massages developed into sexual encounters for which Maxwell, in some instances, was present and participated. Maxwell and Epstein worked together to entice these minor victims to travel to Epstein's residences, depicted on the other chart at the front of the room. His residence in New York City, on the Upper East Side, as well as Palm Beach, Florida, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. Some of the acts of abuse also took place in Maxwell's residence in London, England. In addition to allegedly enabling and participating in the sexual abuse of young victims, Maxwell compounded her crimes by repeatedly lying in 2016 when she was questioned under oath. and we have charged those lies in 2 perjury counts. Maxwell lied because the truth, as alleged, was almost unspeakable. Maxwell enticed minor girls, got them to trust her, then delivered them into the trap that she and Epstein had set for them. She pretended to be a woman they could trust. All the while, she was setting them up to be sexually abused by Epstein, and in some cases, by Maxwell herself.
Now, this is some of the inflammatory rhetoric. I really don't like using that word rhetoric, but since words are so inflammatory these days, she's not sugarcoating it. She's not saying enticed or just plain groomed, which in and of itself is very innocuous when it comes to what was actually happening to these girls. They were being groomed. Sounds so sweet and nice, doesn't it? But you go into the details of what that means, which is what this woman is doing. That's inflaming that word. It's giving new meaning to the word groomed in everyone's mind. These government officials, when they give out these statements, they're very particular on which words they use. And the fact that this woman, she's reading, as you can tell, and she has chosen these inflammatory words so that the public itself understands the full debauchery, the callousness, and the predatory nature of Maxwell. Now we're going to skip to the next person because it's pretty clear on where this woman's mind is at. She's already started the show trial.
I also want to acknowledge and thank the career prosecutors of my office who are handling the investigation and prosecution of this case. Alex Ross Miller, Maureen Comey, and Allison Moe. I want to also thank their chiefs, Russell Capone and Edward Discant, the chiefs of the Public Corruption Unit. Finally, I want to thank and commend the brave women who are willing to come forward decades after their abuse.
I wasn't going to say anything, but she did. She's thanking these individuals. And one of them happens to be Maureen Comey. And yes, it is that Comey. Now she's thanking these people, one of them being Maureen Comey. And her body still is very proud of this moment, the Maxwell case. She's not showing any signs of mistrust with any of the people that she's naming. There's no hesitation. We don't see any of that. She's naming them down, and she's very strong in the way she's saying it. And she's still giving that good eye contact. As far as she's concerned, this whole team that she's naming so far, they are strong, trustworthy people, and they are bringing the full might of this prosecution.
And tell us what happened to them, without whom these charges could not have been brought today. And we thank them for their courage, and we are proud to stand here on their behalf in bringing this case. I now want to invite up our good friend, Assistant Director Bill Sweeney.
Thank you, Audrey. Almost 1 year ago, when our offices stood before you and announced the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, I stated that preserving the innocence of children is among the most important responsibilities we carry as adults. Too often, adults in our society have turned a blind eye to the type of criminal behavior that we announced back then and announce again today.
So this guy is reading. He's one of our other prosecutors, one of the investigators. I don't remember what his title is nowadays. They're all in the same boat. And he's just reading. Some things that you would think would come out with a strong emotional response is when you're talking about children, these crimes that we're going after. But I'm going to give him a pass. We've not seen him before. We don't know his baseline. And it may just be that he is not a very good public speaker. And sometimes, even though you are passionate about a subject, a crowd can distract the mind with the fear of being in front of it.
The villains in these outrageous crimes are the adult perpetrators, not the youth, who are our neighbors, our students, vulnerable foster children, and teens seeking support. Today, we announced the arrest of one of the villains in this investigation. Early this morning, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested in Bradford, New Hampshire, by FBI special agents and NYPD detectives from the FBI NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force. Our team from New York was assisted by special agents assigned to our Boston, Newark, New Haven, and Albany field offices. We have been discreetly keeping tabs on Maxwell's whereabouts as we worked this investigation, and more recently we learned she had slithered away to a gorgeous property in New Hampshire, continuing to live a life of privilege while her victims live with the trauma inflicted upon them years ago. We moved when we were ready, and Ms. Maxwell was arrested without incident. Like Epstein, Ms. Maxwell chose to blatantly disregard the law and her responsibility as an adult, using whatever means she had at her disposal to lure vulnerable youth into behavior they should never have been exposed and which creates lasting harm. We allege that from at least 1994 through at least 1997, Ms. Maxwell assisted Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by helping to recruit, entice, groom, and abuse children under the age of 18. She befriended the innocent, attempted to normalize sexual abuse, and worked to put victims at ease, aware the entire time of the abuse that would follow. One question about her conduct in 2006.
So as you listen to how he describes it, remember the other woman, she got into some details. She inflamed it. You understood then what grooming was. This individual, if we had to put this on the Scoville rating system, I wouldn't call him mild. He's definitely not hot. I'd just call him medium.
16, we allege Ms. Maxwell lied under oath. I'd like to take a moment again to speak directly to the victims. There never was, nor shall there be, an excuse for the criminal behavior you were subjected to. We know that your quest for justice has been met with great disappointment and that reliving these events is traumatic. When we met you, we told you that in the eyes of the FBI, you come first. I would like to thank you for the trust you placed in our investigative teams as we work to hold the adult perpetrators accountable. For the many victims of other adult perpetrators who may be listening or get word of today's announcement, the example set by the women involved in this investigation has been a powerful one. They persevered against the rich and the connected, and they did so without a badge, a gun, or a subpoena, and they stood together. I have no doubt the bravery exhibited by the women in this investigation has empowered others to speak up about the crimes that they have been subjected to. If you are listening today and are the victim of child sex trafficking, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI or contact us online at tips.fbi.gov. If you are an adult who believes a child or a teen is being exploited, or believe a child or a teen has exhibited signs of exploitation, please contact law enforcement. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website is a great resource for information about the indicators of sex trafficking. Take a few minutes to educate yourself. Click on the issues section of that website. Take a moment to learn how to spot the vulnerable and protect them. The website is missingkids.org. Finally, I want to extend my sincere thanks to the task force in New York, the leadership and the prosecutors of the Southern District of New York. You have quietly and professionally executed your mission as public servants, advocating for the most vulnerable in society and holding perpetrators accountable regardless of their perceived wealth, connections, or the passage of time. Thank you for putting the victims first. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Shea.
Again, this is another one where you hear him thanking all those that were involved in this. He did a lot of reading, but his baseline, at least for this interview or this press conference, didn't change. He holds no animosity. It appears as if nothing was held back. It has gone as good as he had hoped.
Good afternoon, everyone. Audrey, Bill, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. And I'll echo really their words. In my view, we are here for one reason today and one reason only, for the victims, for the survivors of these heinous crimes. And I will remind everyone that although we are talking about periods of time 20 or close to 30 years in the past, for the victims, the survivors of these sexual assaults, these crimes are as fresh today and the impact that they caused on their psyche as they were then. I want to take a special moment to thank Chief Rodney Harrison and the men and women of the New York City Police Department that worked on this case hand in hand with Bill Sweeney's special agents. Thank you.
I actually like seeing that guy. He didn't read. He had a little short, sweet thing of, I just want to say thank you. We worked hand in hand, blah, 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 blah. He gave really good eye contact. He was down in a little bit of a bow, the humility of it all. but he gave good eye contact, and that is just humility. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not going to comment on anyone's status in this investigation, but I will say that we would welcome Prince Andrew coming in to talk with us. We would like to have the benefit of his statement.
So if you can't hear the reporter, he's asking about Prince Andrew, about coming in, and would you like him to come in? And while he was asking that, she's shaking her head in the positive. And then, of course, then she says it in the positive. Yes, we'd like him to come in.
You know, I have no further comment beyond what I just said, which is that our doors remain open, as we've previously said, and we would welcome him coming in and giving us an opportunity to hear his statement.
And she's not giving any more. She's actually cut it off. She's not being gated. She just kind of just throws it out. No, I don't want to comment anymore on that. It's a little window into the mind. Either it's a lack of information, but a speculation of opinion, which would say why there's not that outward hold down the fort type of gating. And then there's, I've got a lot of information. I would really want to answer you personally and tell you because you're friendly or you're one of my allies or however you want to look at it. That would be a much more open gatedness where you would see them clenching back, tight lips and the hands coming together, stopping information from coming back. So for her to not give that kind of indication to this individual, it says they're not buddies, they're not allies, he's a reporter. I'm not giving you that information. And apparently in the mind, there's nothing really to give anyways. It's just, for me, I'm looking at it going, we may actually get a real, bona fide justice for this sickness. Or this woman may be as naive as we are.
In making the decision to charge, you reach back to an era in the mid-90s. Is there any physical evidence, or is it merely the word of the women, the unnamed victims that are
Again, I won't comment beyond the scope of the indictment. You can read the indictment and see the kind of allegations we made, and therefore the evidence that we will bring forward to prove those you can kind of figure out. But I'm not going to comment on the specific evidence in the case. That will be seen in the event that she goes to trial.
And here again, we have another bit of they're trying to pull information from her, and she's going into I'm not going to comment. We're not seeing that gatedness about. Remember, the more information she has and the better the ally is to her asking for the information, the harder it is for someone to keep it back. And she's not having a hard time. She is going a little bit small. I will say that. She's gone small on it. And that's just to get away. That she's keeping close to herself is the evidence.
Audrey, in the original indictment against Epstein, there were allegations in the 2000s. This predates that. Can you speak to why there's not overlap between those two?
That I cannot speak to. You just see one indictment covers one period and the other covers the other, and whatever is not said is not something I can speak to. It's beyond the four corners of the indictment.
Did the firing of Jeffrey Berman affect at all the timing of this arrest?
Not at all. Not at all.
That question was about Bierman being fired and the timing of this arrest. You see a little bit of stress in the face, and she moves away from it. Not at all. Not at all. Maybe not all of it. All in all, it actually looks very good for all of us Americans wanting justice and probably worldwide thinking justice. Let's just hope that she's not naive. Let's just have hope that the full might of the justice system does come down equally.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers, where Mandy teaches more about her techniques of deception detection. There's also other content such as the Crime Series and Interesting Minds series, available to both Gold and Silver subscribers. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on Library to watch even more free videos.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.